How is it going, folks? And happy Monday. If you missed Friday's episode, the dramatic conclusion to Season 2 at Dortmund, go watch it. Today, we're back. It's the end of the season, it's the start of the new one, and we have a title to try and retain. Last year was a record-breaking season as we got the most goals in Bundesliga history, and Bayern Munich got the most points to not win the league in the league's history. The next year coming up is going to be tough. European football to juggle, we are going to need a bigger squad. And with that in mind, the transfer special today matters all the more. We have £77 million in the transfer budget, a little bit of wage budget as well, maybe some wheeling and dealing to happen, and I'm almost certain at some point today, we will have some significant bids for some of our key players who are wanted by various clubs that we're going to have to try and fend off. Players will be sold, tears will be shed, money might be spent. Let's get into today's video. Today, by the way, is the 16th episode of Rebuilding Dortmund, and incidentally, we're here on the 16th of June. We are very close to the season tick-over date. Before I've gone out and signed anyone, we've done a little bit of wheeling and dealing, some sales done, some clauses sold. On the clauses front, you can see here, we have sold our 50% profit sell-on that we had on Gillickson to Bournemouth. This guy, currently valued at £21 million. That is a release clause. Had he gone for his release clause, we would have been set to make, I think, around £5 to £6 million. I was able to sell the clause for £5 million and just get the money. Elsewhere, managed to get £3.5 million of a buyout on Marlon's clause. Of course, he was sold before our time at the club. 20% of any of his next sale was set to come to us, but with him turning 30 this coming season, I really don't see a world where he goes for an amount that is going to be any more than what we would have got with this sell-on. Yeah, so we got £3 million for him. Elsewhere in the first team, one super significant sale. Zonorek has left the building, sold to Marseille. The Croatian international sold for £20 million all up front. Start of this season that's just gone, he scored 2 goals on off the bench. After that, did not score a single other goal. He lacks a little bit at 23 years old. I feel like he's not really got much more potential to fulfill. And £20 million, to be honest, was a ridiculous sum of money for a player stuck on our bench. Now, bizarrely, going into this transfer special, there's not an immediate spot in the first team where I think, yeah, we desperately need to sign someone new. Maybe an upgrade at centre-back would be nice. Maybe someone to compete with Kameri in the midfield. But besides that, the squad that we've got I'm happy with. It's just a case of adding some depth. And one area where I do think depth was lacking this season just gone was the attacking midfield department. Whilst we had Giovanni Reina and Bino Gittins to bring into the team, of course, we had a couple of injuries which resulted in Bernhard Seidel featuring on the bench from time to time. Made one appearance on off the bench, the 20-year-old. This is the kind of guy who, to be honest, given his value, I might be tempted to cash in on. Do you think he could hit his potential? I'm not that sure. And of course, with Zonorek gone, there is a little bit of a gap at the centre of the midfield, although I might have already found a player who can kill both these stones with one bird. It's both birds with one stone. If you're killing a stone with 2 birds, that would be an achievement. And that player is the transfer-listed Florian Wirtz. He is available from Bayern Munich. Having lost out to the title to us, they are having a bit of a spring cleaning sale. They signed this guy for £41 million from Leverkusen. He's actually played okay this season just gone. And I look at him, I suppose the only real concern is going to be the wages. But at 25 years old, for a German international who looks this good, I think it's a great deal. Considering we sold Zonorek for £20 million, Wirtz for what would essentially be a £10 million outlay, feels like a pretty sensible bit of business. So given the fact this is a no-brainer and he's transfer listed for £30 million, going to submit that bid. Hopefully, his wage demands aren't too unreasonable. Hopefully, he doesn't want to play super regular first-team football because I think he will be more of a rotation option for us. Those wages, they could be a concern. I feel like Wirtz is a more technical and, well, more gifted footballer version of Giovanni Reina, who's just a little bit slower at running and not quite as good at jumping. 2 similar players, cover a similar set of positions, but I feel like depth and versatility like this doesn't come along often. Apparently, he's very interested in negotiating terms, but he has more appealing options elsewhere. More interest in joining Napoli. Apparently, same interest in joining Leipzig, who incidentally have also made a bid. He wants to be an important player. He wants to play as a centre attacking mid. I can't apply those assurances, but you will be an important player for us, Florian. So in terms of wage demands, he wants £105,000 a week. For a little bit of context here, our current highest earner is on £120,000. That's Gnonto. Then Adamu's on £100,000. So £105,000 for a player who I think might be more of a squad option. It's a little bit steep. I can offer up to 89,000. I'll try and sweeten the deal elsewhere. Have just spotted minimum release clause to clubs in foreign clubs. Yeah, that can't exist. Okay, he is really set on getting more significant wages than what I could previously offer, so I'm going to rejig our budget slightly. I'm going to offer 95,000 and hope that's enough to sweeten the deal. He really wants 110. I'll give you 100. Am I really going to blow this deal over £10,000? I don't think it's worth it. I think I just submit the offer. I feel like he's so good and he fits what we need quite well in terms of profile of player, German, obviously, for a reasonable price. I think sometimes you just have to kind of, I don't know, swallow your pride and just accept, maybe I do have to pay an extra 10,000. Of course, I say all of that knowing that Leipzig have also made a bid. He'll probably end up just going to them. Interesting to note, actually, the current German national team looks a little something like this. Look at this sea of Dortmund players. We have 6 representatives in the national team right now. Arian B, our centre-back, Becker and Bullet at left-back and right-back are in the team, and Killy is starting as well, Gruda and Adriano on the bench. I just mentioned earlier how maybe the defence needs to be the position we upgrade. When you look at them, you'd kind of maybe look at it and go, wow, the defence is the thing that needs improving. But when 3 out of the 4 players are in the German national team and you're restricted to German-only players with 1 wildcard example, is there really better options out there? We've got this sea of young, talented centre-backs. I feel like maybe getting in another backup similar to Taruna Riga might be a good idea. This guy, of course, did have a serious hip injury, which did impact his physicals quite a lot. Given the fact he's 30, maybe getting someone in who is of a similar mould to Arian B to really compete at centre-back. I am looking at players like Mogala thinking, I can probably sell you on. And in fact, forgot to mention this earlier, I am currently in the process of selling him. If I can get £8 million for him, I think that opens up the door to go out there and sign a good little backup defender. Just confirming another sale here. Ansari, a product of our youth academy, good player at 19 years old, but with limited potential, running down his contract at the end of next year. Happy to get just over £1 million for him, and a significant sell-on if indeed he does develop. Speaking of Mogala, he is leaving now, £8 million. Going to confirm that deal. Might leave us a little light at right back. Of course, we do have Mbom as a backup at right back. Of course, Bullet is our starting right back, recently crowned into the German national team with 2 caps. Might be good to just look at someone who can play in that area of the pitch as well as at centre-back. Been taking a peek at transfer-listed German players just to see what might be out there. At the moment, Wirtz is the only player really close to our first-team quality available. In fact, the next player down is Robin Koch, who's available for £3 million. So from 30 million to 3 million. There's lots of players in that middle bracket missing. I'm hoping that when we get to the end of the month and the transfer window opens in Germany, maybe we see a few new potential signings appear. Bundesliga signings of the season for the season just gone. We have 2 of the top 5. Adamu, unsurprisingly, top goal scorer. And in behind, Willie Gnonto. I know some people feel like I didn't get the most out of Gnonto, given the fact he finished second in the signing of the season. I think he did as much as we could have hoped him to do. And now I believe, as I hit continue here, we're going to tick into the new season, get all the new media predictions and stuff. Worth noting, our season is going to be starting with the Super Cup, where we're taking on Werder Bremen. Board expectations for the year. They want us to qualify for the Champions League through the league. I definitely think we can do that. I don't think I'm going to alter any of these other expectations. There's not massive upsides to doing it, so we'll just confirm these. Here's the thing I'm really interested in. Season preview. Where are we? And the answer is we are predicted to finish 3rd. Bayern Munich top. Leipzig in 2nd. Ourselves in 3rd. If I was going to make an early prediction, I have a sneaking suspicion that with Leipzig and Union Berlin not having European football to distract them, they are going to be teams that we need to have on our radar and are probably going to be a lot more challenging this year to go up against. Interesting to note as well, and I don't know why this is always different, but on our club profile screen, our media prediction for the year is 2nd, not 3rd. I don't know what to believe. If we get Champions League football, that'd be good. I want to win the league again, but I know how difficult that is going to be this coming season. I know for a fact there's going to be a sea of comments saying, Jack, Jadon Sancho, is he available? No, I did look at picking him up in January. Sadly, he'd already agreed to go to Atletico on a ridiculous contract, which I frankly could not match. He wasn't that interested in joining us in January anyway because we didn't have Champions League football. I do wonder, had he not signed to Atleti in January and we got to the end of the season, would it have been possible? Sadly, we'll never know. Okay, this is a really good signing. I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to be able to be done, but Florian Wirtz is joining us. £30 million. It's not an insignificant sum of money, but I feel like he is just what the doctor ordered. Direct upgrade on Zonarek, can play in the wide areas if we need him to, and I just think he's a really, really good player for the price. We're also weakening Bayern Munich, and whilst he didn't play a load in their first team, he did make some meaningful contributions over the course of the season, and considering they signed him for £41 million, 30 million just feels like a bargain. Speaking of central midfielders, Sissoko, I am looking to move on this year. He's never really gelled and played regularly in the first team. He's the kind of player who I'd like to move on, and then with the funds that we get from him and funds we have elsewhere, try and find someone to play second fiddle to Nkili, whose development has continued to be just absolutely ridiculous. I really believe that between Nkili and Adriano, we have just a dreamy centre-mid setup. These two guys, very complementary, insane physicals, great vision, really good creativity. One of them's the more defensive option, one of them's the more attacking option. There is a world in which you could imagine actually playing Nkili perhaps slightly further up the pitch and then picking up someone new to play at defensive mid. But actually this year, Nkili's played really well. Kameri didn't really put a foot wrong during last season, but of all the places I look at in the first team, I do view Kameri's area of the pitch as one where maybe there is an upgrade to be found. The natural question then becomes, is there a good defensive midfielder who's German to pick up? Could I go after Satoshi Urata, who I've just been flirting with the idea of picking up for ages? He has developed actually really, really well, the 20-year-old from Freiburg. Elsewhere, I did spot Tom Kraus, who of course we picked up for Union Berlin. Feel like he's not quite of the quality I want to sign, and for the fee I'd have to pay for a backup, it's not really worth it. I do remember, incidentally, and I can't remember what their name was, there was a player who was a defensive midfielder, if I'm not mistaken, for Austria, who was a particularly, what I thought would be good backup option. Whether or not I'm now going to be able to find them remains to be seen. In fact, it was this guy, Matthias Braunorder. This guy, 26 years old, 12 to 14 million pounds, looks like a good little player, reasonable sum of money as well. If we do just compare him with Nkili, similar mould of player, perhaps slightly better defensively, lacks a little bit everywhere, but I mean, Nkili is a bit of a diamond, really. I don't think I can expect to find a player of the exact same mould. Looking at players like Jashari here and also Handel, great players, but at 30 to 40 million pounds, not really the amount of money I want to be paying for a backup defensive mid. Having evaluated my options, I do feel like Braunorder here could be the best option. I'm going to scout him just for a little bit more. Could be an area that we use the wild card on. I'm now sat thinking, where would I use my international wild card this year? I'm so happy with the overall 11. Obviously, already looked at the centre-back area, and if I want to improve that, probably needs to be a wild card player. But I do feel like that defensive midfielder position, especially if Sissoko leaves, is going to be important to fill. The transfer window has opened. It's the 1st of July, and suddenly rumours are swirling. Gnonto, apparently wanted by Aston Villa. I know what you're thinking, Aston Villa. Just a reminder, in this Football Manager universe, Aston Villa are very, very good. They finished second twice in the Premier League, then finished fourth twice. Last season, they finished second again. Yeah, they are just a really good team under Unai Emery, so I imagine Gnonto might want to go to them, which could be a problem. And elsewhere, Bundesliga rumours, Gruda to Leipzig. Apparently, a potentially £65 million deal. I suppose the question has to be, how much would I have to receive as a bid for Gruda to entertain it? He was amazing last year, and he was amazing the year before. Whereas that little part of me that looks at his attributes and thinks he's not that remarkable, can he just keep consistently putting these numbers up? Part of me really, really wants to find out. Part of me knows if I was to get a bid of 60 or 70 million pounds, it's going to be hard not to turn it down. Transfer window is open. The signing of Wirtz is the first officially confirmed of the deals that we've already sorted out for the summer, although there was a deal that I sorted out a little while ago that has now only just gone through, and that is Yusufu, who we had on loan last year from Benfica. We've signed him for £3 million. We had this option to sign him, and whilst he's not the craziest of players, at 23 years old, great important matches, great consistency, potential to improve, for £3 million as a backup goalkeeper, I don't think you're going to do any better. So we decided to snap him up. Hadn't noticed this in the bottom left. 14 transfers. I can now see Chelsea make Gnonto offer. We'll get to that in a moment. First and foremost, bids for Sissoko made. I've asked for £11.5 million. The best bid here is 8.5 million from Olympiacos. I think I'm just going to accept that. We've not really had any better offers, and I do feel like, I mean, I feel like on paper, he looks like he should be a good player, but the reality is I've just not trusted him, and I've not played him, so I might as well cash in on him. We know we need to improve that part of the pitch anyway. Okay, as I click up here, I know there's some scarier bits coming in. In fact, there's even more bids here for Sissoko. Are any of these actually better? I feel like these don't have the same money up front, so I'm gonna reject them all and reject that one as well. And now I'm nervous, you're nervous. Chelsea make Gnonto offer. How much have they bid? Oh my word, they've bid £116 million, £91 million now. £18 million over the next 2 years. If he plays 20 games for the Italian national team, another 6.5 million. Oh, I don't know if I can turn that down. That's a monster offer. That is a monster offer. We signed him for 60 million. Of course, the weird thing here is it becomes one of those deals where if it wasn't for the fact that he's a wildcard signing, I probably would sell him. But because of our transfer restrictions and the fact that there's not really going to be a German player as good as him who I can realistically sign, it becomes harder to greenlight a deal. But still, that is so much money. There's more bids here I need to look at. We'll come back to this. Loan offer for Duranville made by Lille. I think actually this year Duranville is going to stick around as a squad player. Didn't develop a load at Hoffenheim. If I was to get a decent transfer offer, I'd entertain it. His guide price is 20 to 23 million pounds. Gonna reset his asking price. We'll see if anyone does make a bid for him, but yeah, don't intend on loaning him out. Had a couple of bids for youth players here that I have no interest in selling, so we're gonna reject those. Next bid up is the bid for Michael Becker, or Mitchell Becker. This guy has potential, but to be honest, he really doesn't look that good. They are bidding absolute peanuts, Darmstadt, but I'll just ask for a 50% sell on. I feel like that's probably just a good deal to do. He has potential, but I don't see him fulfilling it. Hoffenheim have made a bid for Maxi Doppler. Just as a reminder, we signed him for £28 million. So there is no world in which I'm even going to entertain a £22 million bid. And elsewhere, another bid for a youngster. Plogger, you are awful. You can just go. I don't even care to negotiate. This Gnonto bid, though, £91 million now. I mean, what would I do if I was to lose him? I mean, if I wasn't to sign anyone, I suppose Bino Gittins would be the man to come in and replace him. When you can pair the two players, though, it is kind of men against boys. I don't feel like if I was to sell Gnonto, I can replace him or try and solve the problem with anyone already in our team. We'd have to go out and sign someone. I mean, in terms of German left attacking mid options, there's a 32-year-old Timo Werner. I mean, that's going to solve the problem. Lasse Gunter here. No, definitely not. Manuel Mild, good youngster. Similar here with Lucas, another good youngster, but I'm looking to replace Gnonto if I'm going to sell him with a monstrous player. Ibrahimovic, who we looked at 1 point, he's just not comparable either. It would have to be a wildcard signing. The question then becomes, what wildcard left attacking mids are out there? Is there someone who I could bring into the team for, well, I want to say a comparable amount of money to the fee we're getting? It's over £90 million. But obviously, if you're going to sell him, really, you want to be bringing in someone who's of a similar quality and having some money left over for it to make sense. And as I look through these players, there isn't really such a player that exists. I mean, someone like Thiago Almada would be banging, except he's got wages of £200,000, which I'm going to state the obvious here, I can't afford. There's players like, say, Maximin, Lindstrom. I suppose the issue I'm going to have is any player that I sign for kind of £90 million is probably going to want more than the £120,000 we're currently paying Gnonto. He's got 4 years left on his current deal. He's got 4 years left. I'm going to delay this offer. I'm going to stall it because he did say he has more interest in joining Aston Villa. I'm going to offer him out for even more money. I don't know what to offer him out for. 145 million. Just see if anyone makes a bid. I doubt they will. So I did bring Wirtz to largely be a sub option. I'm just wondering, would you play him over Kameri at centre mid? Would you? I think the answer is no. I mean, Kameri's physicals are just nuts, aren't they? This is kind of the preliminary starting 11 to start the season. I love our bench, by the way. Bookman and Bomb, Tarunariga, Sissoko. Maybe could do with a few upgrades in that area of the pitch. We've already discussed a new defensive mid is going to be the order of the day. Maybe a new centre mid. But in terms of attacking, meaningful, creative players, Wirtz, Reina, Duranville, Bino Gittins and Doppler, I really like that as 5 players who you can call upon to make a difference. Obviously, beyond those players, the next creative player we'd have is Seidel, who I'm not overly convinced by. Elsewhere, by the way, other players we have outside of the bench, lots of defenders, players like Skov, players like Pilos, who I feel like are just not quite ready to be first team ready. I say that like I don't have other centre-back options. Of course, we do have Buckman, who's a centre-back option, and we have as well Torunariga, who is a centre-back option. Still feel like I could do better. I feel like regardless, I need to loan out Skov this year just to get him some regular first-team football somewhere. So we'll offer him out and see if we get any interest in him. I think I am going to keep Pilios around just to be an emergency backup. He can play with the B team anyway, but Skov needs that regular first-team football. Union Berlin have made a bid to loan Skov. They want him to be a squad player. I'm going to ask for them to make him a regular starter. I'd be a little bit shocked and horrified if he was a regular starter for them. But if they could give him some decent minutes, I think that'd be really good for his development. I'm really rather quickly coming to the conclusion that there is not a good left attacking mid out there that I can realistically sign with my wildcard spot. They would make sense to sell Gnonto for. Yeah, there really just isn't anyone. I mean, Guiri's not a bad little player, I suppose, but I don't think it's worth it. I mean, Andreas Schelderupt is available. He'd be an interesting option. He is currently out injured for 2 to 6 weeks with a hip injury. I mean, how does he compare with Gnonto? He's actually available for a reasonable price as well. I mean, here is the head-to-head. 28 to 35 million pounds for him. Obviously, physically doesn't really match up, but does have the better technicals, attacking, and kind of vision going his way. I don't know what to do. 90 million is absurd. I mean, Schelderupt, if I could get him for a good fee, might actually be a smart deal, dare I say. Well, let's see how much Benfica want from him. He is out with a long-term injury at the moment, so that's a little bit of a concern, obviously. Looks like I'd be able to sign him for maybe 36 million pounds. So if I signed him for 36 million and sold on Gnonto for 91 million, that would, and of course there is a load of money on top of that as well. I mean, in some ways, it makes a lot of sense. They are very different types of players. Gnonto is very good when it comes to his physicals. But then again, we already have some really good physical players in our team. Players like Adriano has mad physicals. Kameri has mad physicals. And Killy has... I'm sounding like a broken record player. We already have a lot of engines in the midfield. Gruda is no slouch either. So maybe just bringing in someone like Schelderupt who offers something a little bit different... Maybe that's the play. I mean, Gruda tore it up this year in the Bundesliga. Schelderup just seems like a better version of him who can play on the other side. Apparently, he's unsure about negotiating terms. He would be a key player, obviously, if he came in, although he wants us to be treated as a stepping stone. He wanted £150,000 a week. I don't want to go higher than 120, which is what Gnonto is currently on, although, of course, we can offer him a little bit more in the way of clauses. Let's see what he says to this. He wants 140. I'm locking in 120. He's accepted that. I mean, we will get, obviously, a scout report. Hopefully, he's not too injury-prone, although it does look like he's had some issues with injuries in this save game. But if I was to sell Gnonto for 90+ million, Schelderup for, what, 36 million? I mean, it's a pretty good deal. But it is my wildcard spot used then. I mean, what would I use the extra 60 million pounds on? Who would I spend the extra 60 million pounds on? I got a pretty good idea. Wiedrego has a release clause of 70 million pounds. Wiedrego and Schelderup for Gnonto going out. I mean, that seems really good, doesn't it? Wiedrego can play at defensive mid as well, so that would be a potential solution to the Nkili situation. He can play at centre mid. He can play actually out on the left-hand side. He could play as an inverted winger. Is he better than Gnonto in that area of the pitch? No, he's a completely different kind of player. But he definitely could do worse. He's got a release clause of 70 million. I guess I'm doing it, aren't I? We'll make the bid. If I'm going to sell Gnonto, I have to have justification to do it. And it freeing up funds to be able to sign Wiedrego, that feels like a pretty good justification with Schelderup coming in to obviously solve the issue that Gnonto vacating leaves us. I think it would be a net positive for the overall quality of our squad. Freiburg have made an interesting offer for Max Dopper. I've set an asking price of £60 million. They've got nowhere near that. Just as a reminder, we signed him for £28 million. Truth be told, since we've signed him, I don't feel like he's actually developed that much. Given the fact he's now been here 18 months, maybe that is a little bit of a red flag. Maybe he is one of those players where he's kind of, generated close to his potential. They've made a bid worth potentially £24 million here. I'm going to be cheeky. I want £40 million now. They've not flat out said no. How about 37 million? We're getting closer. Okay, Freiburger made a bid for Max Dopper. It's £35 million plus 50% of any profit. It is going to leave us with a little bit of a gap potentially in the striking area of the team, but I feel like that's a pretty good offer for a player who's unhappy at the club, didn't play that well last year, and also I'm having major reservations over his actual potential. And heck, look, if he does develop, if he is amazing, we're going to get 50% of any profit as well. Our Ouedraogo bid has been accepted as well. Of course, it was a release clause, so they were always going to accept it. He wants to be a star player. He wants £100,000 a week. That I can just about stomach. I need to remove the minimum release clause. I don't want to negotiate too hard with him, really. If we can just do 100,000, spit on it, shake on it, we'll both be very happy. It's Wirtz all over again. I'll just give him the extra 10,000. Life is fine. I think I have to accept this Gnonto offer. I mean, I will have time to cancel it if I feel like it, but £91 million all up front is crazy. And considering that with the money we're getting from the money up front and the clauses, it allows me to sign Andreas Schelderup and Ouedraogo. I feel like it's a kind of no-brainer. I mean, it's probably between the two of them, none of them are quite as good as Gnonto, but as a collective, I think they move the squad forward in a really good way. I wouldn't be able to sign both these players otherwise. I will just keep offering out Gnonto again, because there were other teams interested. See if anyone comes in with a bigger bid than Chelsea, although I feel like that's very unlikely to happen. Mitchell Becker leaving the club. £30,000 for this guy. I mean, I didn't even know he existed at the club until now. We'll take it. £30,000 for nothing as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Skov confirmed to be going out on loan to Union Berlin. Hopefully a chance for him to fulfill his potential. At 21 years old, would be a useful squad player if we were slightly further down the Bundesliga, but given where we are, he's just not quite of the quality we need now. I am just sat wondering, are there any better left attacking mid options than Andreas who we're currently negotiating with? Is there anyone who I've kind of missed previously? I have also just set our scouts to mass scout all the players showing up here who are left attacking mids. We'll do a few more of these further down, obviously just sorted by value here. There's some very good players here, players that I recognise from previous Football Manager save games, but in terms of value for money, I'm going to be honest, I don't think Schelderup has anyone close to him. He is just mad for how good he is. If you had told me I was going to be selling Gnonto this episode, probably would have laughed at you. The Schelderup deal we can now confirm, of course, does have a little bit of an injury. I'm going to hit delay on this for now, just because I need to make sure the Gnonto deal definitely happens. Otherwise, I'd be using my wild card on nothing. Well, not nothing, just a signing that I don't need if Gnonto decides he wants to stay. Which, I'll be honest, it does feel very unlikely that will happen at this point. I cannot add an EVIT. Ouedraogo has accepted a new contract from Union Berlin to stay at Union Berlin. I made a bid that triggered his release clause. He does now have a new release clause, I've noticed, that's only 14 million higher. I mean, we'll just trigger that then. I feel like he's not going to want to talk to me. On the one hand, I'm bloody livid. On the other, does warm my heart to know that a player I signed for Union Berlin many moons ago has decided to extend his contract rather than come and join Dortmund. Yeah, just as I suspected, he's signed a new deal, doesn't want to talk to us. And suddenly the Gnonto sale feels more questionable, because I don't think there's anyone as good as Ouedraogo who I could sign who's German with the money that we have. I mean, I'm now looking at German players that we've scouted sorted by ability. Max Morstead, of course, turned us down to go to PSG last year. Apparently he would now be interested in joining us. Sadly for us, it would cost us a premium. But on the flip side, we would have the money to make that deal happen if we wanted to make it happen if Gnonto goes. Besides Max Morstead, though, not overly inspired by the list of names popping up on this list. I feel like Ouedraogo was the one, and he slipped through my fingertips. I mean, given he signed his deal now with Union Berlin, how long would I have to wait to trigger that release clause and for him to be interested in talking to me? Could I just go for him at the end of the transfer window, I wonder? I'm sure Union Berlin fans would absolutely detest that if I did it, but it might be the best offer. I cannot believe that he's turned us down to extend his contract. I'm actually fuming. Genuinely, I don't know what to do about this Gnonto deal. I mean, Schelderup is a great replacement, but the £60 million that we'd have from that deal kind of left over if we were to make that exchange of players, I don't know where I'd spend it. which makes it somewhat difficult to justify selling Gnonto. It's not even like we're short on money. We've got a transfer budget right now of £52 million. I could just sign Shelderup and keep Gnonto around if I wanted to, but it's £91 million up front and a guaranteed, I think, 114, 116 million. It's kind of difficult to say no to that. Chelsea have agreed to sign Gnonto for £109 million, now waiting on a work permit. Totally forgot about this as well. Sissoko, yeah, you can leave, mate. We will sign a defensive mid eventually. I feel like there's lots of moving cogs at the moment, and I'm so preoccupied with the other transfer decision-making I've got to make. I don't know what I'm doing about the defensive midfield position yet. A bad day gets worse. We've had bids for Gruda, potentially £67 million from Aston Villa. Potentially. I say that. He needs convincing to stay. I need more money than that, Villa, and I need it up front. I want 120 million. They've locked in 84 million pounds. It's only 34 million of it now, but 84 million pounds for Gruda. And never in my wildest dreams would I ever spend 84 million pounds of my own money on him. Knowing I've got that bit kind of deal in the bank from Villa, I suppose I can now be a bit higher with teams like Juventus and see if we can get some good money off them for him. How about 80 million pounds all up front? They've offered 81 million. Oh my, I don't know what to do. I don't want my team to get plucked apart, but some of these bids are outrageous. I can't believe it. Leipzig, just negotiating with them. Didn't think they'd offer more than the other teams. They've locked in 80 million pounds for Gruda. I've just won the title and I'm considering selling my best player. Have I lost my mind, or is it a case of cashing in on a player whilst I can? 80 million pounds for this guy. 80 million. 80. I feel like if I didn't have my own self-imposed transfer restriction, it'd be the biggest no-brainer ever. Here are the bids. Aston Villa, Juventus, Leipzig. 84 million off Villa. I'm going to reject that. The bid off Juventus, I don't like the clauses, but the bid off Leipzig. 80 million pounds. I'm going to hit accept on it, but I need to... I don't know what to think at this point. If I sell Gruda, I feel like I've got players who can step up. Will they be able to offer the same goal contributions and assist contributions? Probably not, but it's 80 million, folks. I mean, I've said it quite a lot today already. It's 80 million. I mean, I could just sign Shelderup and keep Gnonto around with 80 million. We could have Shelderup on the left, Gnonto on the right, Adamu through the middle. I don't know what to do. What has happened? Today's been a... This episode wasn't meant to play out this way. I mean, if I sell Gruda, I can sign Max Morstead, and it's kind of a no-brainer just to pick him up to be the ultimate squad option. I mean, what a striker it would be just to have in our team. I would ordinarily say the wages of 180,000 might be a concern, but given the fact that we could be potentially making £206 million in sales, doesn't really feel like that is a worry. Gruda's not happy that I didn't accept the bid to go to Villa. Look, the money they offered, it wasn't right. It wasn't close to what I want. 95 million. They bid 95 million. I don't know what I'd do. Okay, Gnonto, deal can be confirmed. I get 82 million pounds if I sell him. Do I want to sell him? Do I need to sell him? Should I sell him? I don't even know anymore. It's a great deal. It's a great deal, but if I'm selling Gruda as well, do I just keep Gnonto around? Is it a case of sell Gruda, keep Gnonto? I don't know. I really don't know what to do. I hate to blue ball you like this, folks, but I've been recording for a while, and I feel like this is the kind of decision where if I wasn't doing a YouTube video, I would take an hour to really deeply meditatively think about it. So you know what I'll do instead? I'll open up the floor to you guys. Down in the comments, what would you be doing in my situation? Is it a case of sell Gruda, keep Gnonto, sell Gnonto, keep Gruda, sign Shelderup, find someone else? I mean, we'd have a load of money to spend, but the debate then becomes, when I look at German players actually available, sorted by transfer value, there isn't actually that bigger a pool of players that kind of make sense to go out and sign. The floor is open to you guys. Let me know what you think. What would you do in my position? It's a hell of a dilemma to have. I don't really think there's a right or wrong decision to be made in terms of we won't know what the right or wrong decision was until the end of next season, where we're either hoisting the Bundesliga trophy aloft again, or I'm crying thinking, why did I sell Gruda? Why did I sell Gnonto? Why is Shelderup always injured? Why can I picture that so clearly in my head? Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's transfer special. It's only the 9th of July. There is still a load of pre-season to go and some massive decisions to be made tomorrow. I will see you guys same time and place as always to make those. Hope you've enjoyed things today. I'll see you next time. It's me, Jack, and I'm out.